It's my honor to introduce the program director on the Center of Excellence in Innovation of the Schulich Executive Education Center, Leanne McAlear.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here, and so happy to be talking about what happens actually in organizations and how we create friction and frictionless organizations in times of disruption. So 84% of executives and leaders say that innovation is a high priority. Well, given what we have just spent 2 days doing, that's not going to be a surprise at all. Yet, 94% say they are dissatisfied with their firm's innovation performance. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a stunning statistic. 95% are dissatisfied. So, because I work with organizations around the world, I think, what are the reasons for that? And there are many, but I think that there are two really important ones. The first has to do with this very experience we have had, this kind of tsunami of change. And I'm really, the quote I like is the one by Havel, the former president of the Czech Republic, who says, the change is so fast that we have not yet had time to be astonished. They're catching up with us. And what happens, I think, for organizations in times like this, the second era of internet, is that they start experiencing what I call performance anxiety. And they start looking for, because it's scary. I mean, it can, stop you in your tracks, this kind of change that we're experiencing. And so what happens in organizations is very often they'll go to that which is easiest. And one of the things we're finding is that one of the places to go is to technology. So what'll happen is I'll work with a company and I'll say, what's your innovation strategy? And they will say, we have an app. Right? Or our phone, our website is now mobile enabled. And they proudly step back. So it's really, now we need technology. Of course we do. Look at the life that lies ahead of us because of it. So interesting. And we need mobile strategies, digital strategies, of course we do. But what we don't want to do is confuse technology with innovation. Technology is an enabler. The input is creativity. That's what we have to harness. And that brings us, and that exists in people. So that brings us to the second reason I believe that people are dissatisfied with their performance. And it has to do with what I call kind of innovation envy. So there's technology, and then there's innovation envy. And this is because here you go. We have heard in those last 2 days about organizations that are doing extremely well in this environment. There are people who are succeeding, and yet, think about it. If you are a small business, as many of us are, or a medium-sized business, or a traditional business that doesn't have a huge technological hook, this is, a bit scary. And yet, organizations are doing really well. And so you kind of hold back and think, I wonder why we're not doing as well as we might. Now, we have really good information in terms of successful innovators, what they do and how they do it. And there was a great study done in the Globe and Mail about, a couple of years back, and it looked at 350 executives across Canada and asked them some serious, kind of more granular questions around innovation. They too agreed that it was critical and indeed important. Great. And then everything kind of fell off the table. Do we have a culture that supports it? 45%, only 45% felt they did. Here's the kicker. Do we understand it? Only 37% of leaders feel that they understand innovation. Only 33% think they're effective at it. and only 22 have any kind of formal process for it. Well, you know, there might be a reason you're dissatisfied. Just saying. So, if we kick back from that for a second, and we think about everything we have heard at this conference, the scientists yesterday, the technologists, all of them talking about the beating heart of this thing being creativity plus rigor. Those two things together, multidisciplinary, a mosh pit of people, and extraordinary things can happen. Great. So there are some fundamental things that need to happen in organizations, and then there's some quick things that you can do. So the first, and really most important, the fundamental, which is not going to be a surprise if you're interested in rigor, is you have to, in your organization, embed a process. You have to have an innovation process that your whole organization understands and can engage in. Terrific. Then, and you have to make it simple, easily understood. You can use a 4-step process. You can actually Google a process and then communicate it to your organization and get people involved in it. 4 steps from insight through to implementation. Perfect. Now, why is having a process so important? Here's why. Because this is the way that you apply creativity and extract it and nurture it and foster it and express it in an organization. What we know is this: the most significant source of innovative ideas in an organization is actually the people who work in it. I mean, who is closer to the rock face of a company than the people who are working in customer experience every day, in shipping every day, in all those interactions every day? And here's the other thing we know. We know that successful innovators are absolutely thinking in terms of disruption. Of course they are. And they're thinking in terms of radical. But this is important. 60 to 70% of successful innovators of their innovation focus and effort is actually spent on incremental innovation. Incremental. Now, small innovations, and this, your biggest asset, the people who are in your company, are deeply involved with every day. Now, what we know is that incremental innovation is not going to propel you into the future, but what it is going to do is it's going to keep you healthy. It's going to keep you juicy. It's going to have your people be able to be ready for what's next. Plus, it's going to tap their creativity. Because here's what we know. There was an Adobe study done about 2 years ago, thousands of people around the world. And the big insight was that less than 20% of people feel that they use their creativity at work. Like, that's frightening. What's happening to that creativity? I'll tell you. They have it. We have it. We use it every day in traffic in Toronto. So let's bring it home, baby. You know, so part of our job then is to, and this is the hack, what we have to do is we have to invite our people to play, to use that incredible capacity they have that everyone here has talked about and has. We have to do that. We have to create an environment where ideas, as Matt Ridley says, where ideas can bump into each other, where people and ideas can kind of populate. And really, this is what Matt Ridley says. We have to create an environment where ideas can have sex, which means that leadership becomes about promoting promiscuity, which I think is like delightful. Oh my. Anyway, here's the news. If we do this, if we engage our people with a very simple process, we will have more ideas and more cost effectiveness and more value than we could ever come to expect if we didn't tap it. So we have to tap it, and this is what will happen. We can self-fund your innovation efforts. It's fantastic, it's brilliant, you're brilliant. Thank you very much.